Panthers. The Zone Coverage Football Show. Your pregame build-up to NFL Sundays. Coming to you live from Teese Towers. Here's your host, Mark Teese.
Hello, and welcome along to the good old Zone Coverage Football Show, your pre-game build-up to NFL Sundays. I'm your host, Mark Teese, and I'm going to be your guide for the next 90 minutes as we delve yet again into the wonderful world of pigskin. But before we get all that, we've got to get the formalities out of the way at the top of the show. So first up, if you're listening live, you've got two options here. You can either listen via the TuneIn app or the Spreaker app. The cool thing with the Spreaker app is there's a live chat room here. You can interact with like-minded pigskin fans as the show unfolds. So head on over to Spreaker.com or search for Spreaker in your app market. Sign up, it's all free. Won't cost you any money. You don't have to worry about any of that sort of stuff. Search your Zone Coverage Football Show. Let's come in, join the show. In the chat room so far, we have Will Davies. Good afternoon, Will. Will's on his lonesome at the moment, so to prevent Will from feeling like Billy No Mount, please head on over to the chat room. There's usually a couple of us in there. Secondly then, as we all know, life's crazy. Some of you dip your toe into the Premier League. I'm not going to hold that against you in all fairness, but if you want to listen back in the form of a podcast, which I do know quite a few of you do have some excellent feedback over the course of the last few weeks, then you can listen via iTunes, you've got Stitcher, YouTube, SoundCloud, and while you're there, do us a massive favour, helps out hugely if you could leave us a rating, even if you hate the show. I don't really mind. Just leave us a rating, some gold stars, 1 or 5, or whatever floats your boat, and that would be very, very much appreciated. Lastly, but not least, you can also connect with the show via social media. You'll find us on Facebook, Google+. It's on Instagram, but it's rare I update Instagram in all fairness. If you want to tweet while the show is going on, Zone Coverage FS is your best port of call. Right, the phone lines are open today. The number is 07444 048 266. And with this, it is one of these big networks, so if you've got inclusive minutes, inclusive text, it's going to come out of that allowance, so it's not going to cost you anything. However, if you are outside the UK, I do know we have a few international listeners. Skype is your best port of call. So Skype, it's Teese, Mr. T-E-E-C-E. And perfect reminder, Will, yes, we have one spot left. I am waiting for the guys at Dundee NFL, actually, for the one spot in the fantasy team to sign up. I sent you a reminder, guys, so get your asses in gear and get signed up. One spot left, unless we can find two more, and we'll go wild. We'll have a 16-team sort of league as well, because you remember Ashley from Minnesota? He joined as well, so we've got some overseas sort of people involved and everything. So if you're listening abroad, come join the fun. Will's still on his own, people. Help a man out. So, yeah, if you want to sign up for the fantasy football, tweet at me at Zone Coverage FS. Hit me up, Facebook. Any way you can, just let me know, and we'll get an invite to you as soon as possible. Talking of Twitter and things, Claire de Bear 85 on Twitter asked me to give her a mention. I would imagine most of you are familiar with Claire de Bear 85 on Twitter. She does the NFL giveaways. She's doing a couple now. So if you go over to Twitter, find her on there, retweet that. She has some fantastic prizes, some signed stuff, hats, stickers, cards, merchandise, t-shirt, the lot. Give her a follow, give her a retweet. I think she's making a draw in the next few days, so please go do that. Check that out. Today's show, we've been visiting the camps over the course of the last few weeks. I only managed to reel one in this week, so we're going to visit Panthers Camp. Wow, it's going to be one of them shows. Panthers Camp today is going to be. Had an interesting conversation with Danny Gamlin. So we're going to play that in a moment. We're going to rattle through the news. Also got a few talking points as well, because there's not a lot going on apart from injury after injury after injury. I've got a few questions for you guys. If we can get some calls, we've not had many of late with all these interviews and camp insights. So I've got a few questions for you guys, actually. If you want to interact via Twitter, you can do, or text 07444 048 266. That'd be cool. Questions, really. For the Texans, is Hoyer the right guy to be in charge? The quarterback there. I know Ryan Mallett then overslept the next day, so it looks like an excellent decision by Bill O'Brien. Also, we've got Sky Sky have now taken over the Sunday games NFL-wise. There was a lot of chatter last week that it could have been the BBC. There was an email sort of going round that it's the BBC, it's yet to be announced. And then a couple of days later, Sky announced that they've got the Sunday night games. How do you guys feel about that now? Because it's a bit of a pain in the rear end. It's extra money out of your pocket. There's no games on terrestrial TV. I would imagine that there's going to be games on terrestrial, while the international games, because like we keep saying on this show, they don't really want to know. And then we have the international games, and they're like flies round dog muck. It's everywhere. You can't get enough of it. It's really annoying. And a week after that, they sort of cast us back to one side. So Sky now have the Sunday games. I want your thoughts on that. A lot of people were concerned about the blackouts. I've seen a lot of people tweeting at Sky saying, is this game going to be blacked out now? I've paid for Game Pass. Apparently the Sunday night game is not going to be blacked out, so fear not. Also, Sky, I've seen a tweet just from Sky. They're doing something on the 9th of September with everyone's favourite Jim White. Again, you remember he did the draft coverage. They visited all 32 teams there. There's a thing on Sky there, so if you want to check that out. If you go and read that, if you're bored, you're having a bit of a crappy day, go and read the responses to that. It's quite entertaining in all fairness. And the last thing really I've got to talk about TV-wise is Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks again has been excellent this past week. I watched it via Game Pass. Again, it's going to be on Sky. It's on the demand thing. And I've stopped plugging Sky for free, in fairness. Sky, send some cash this way. Right, what else was... one of the other things on my list that was bothering... Well, set Twitter alight. You know what Twitter's like. People just go keyboard warrior crazy. That hit on Sam Bradford last week by Suggs. What are your views on that? Was it a dirty hit? Was it a cheap shot? Bradford's knees held up, goes his part. He was calling him out afterwards. So I want your take on that. 0744048 266. And also, what else have we got? I think that's pretty much it, really. So we'll get into the news. Will's still on his own. Where is everyone today? Where is everyone? It's shameful behaviour. Right then, let's see. Let's get into some news. Hopefully get a few phone calls later. Tom from Huddle Magazine's got a new edition out, so we could expect a phone call from Tom as we roll through the show. But let's get the news out the way first. NFL news. Right then, first up on the news, I have the Eagles linebacker Michael Kendricks. He penned a new 4-year deal worth around about $29 million. This was early in the week. Also, veteran wide receiver Reggie Wayne, former Colts, he penned a 1-year deal with the Patriots. Will Reggie Wayne make the team for the Patriots? That's going to be interesting. Pats have looked a bit woeful throughout the course of pre-season. I didn't catch many games. I was out on a stag do last night, so the less said about that, the better. So I missed the sort of Saturday night games. The Friday night games, I did see the Panthers, Patriots, Tom Brady. It's that O-line. There's hope. The hope from my end as a Jets fan, but I'm not going to hold my breath. One of the good signings I did like, if you're a Broncos fan, you're going to love this. Free agent guard Evan Matthews finally has a home. Free agent. He agreed terms to a 1-year deal. The deal's worth around about $4 million, up to $4 million. And that is with incentive. I do believe his base salary is around about $2.5 million. This happened on a Tuesday. And if you rewind, flash your memories back really, Peyton Manning took a $4 million pay cut. That's a good deal now because you've got Evan Matthews on board, so everything is good. Patriots also traded for Lions tackle Michael Williams. I do believe that's a late round pick. I forgot to write that down, so that also happened. And then a bit of controversy in Steelers. Wow, I thought Jets fans went wild when we signed Michael Vick with petitions and stuff, but Pittsburgh Steelers fans have taken it to a whole new level. Obviously, we all know about Vick's past, the dogfighting and the prison sentence that ensued and all that sort of nonsense. He penned a 1-year deal. This after, of course, the Steelers placed quarterback Bruce Gradkowski on season-ending injured reserve list. More Patriots news stemming from the Friday night game as fullback James Devlin. He suffered a broken right tibia. He will undergo surgery in Charlotte for what's been described as a clean break. So he's expected to return in around about 6 to 8 weeks now. So, that was James Devlin. And then more contract news, really. The Washington Redskins, they agreed terms with left tackle Trent Williams. This happened, I think it was either Thursday or Friday. However, the new deal is a 5-year contract. It's an extension with $66 million. And according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, the deal will include $43.25 million in guarantees. And this will make Williams the highest paid tackle in NFL history. I'm talking of big deals. This happened late last night. The Atlanta Falcons signed Julio Jones to a 5-year extension. No official financial details from the snippet of news that I grabbed, but they reckon the deal's worth around about $71.2 million, $47 million guaranteed. And according to ESPN's Chris Mortensen, Jones's $14.2 million average is the second highest among receivers, so that eclipses the deal that was done about 2-3 weeks ago with Dez Bryant and, oh man, I'm drawing a blank, what's his name, Broncos player, Demaryius Thomas, yes. So yeah, that is that. I think he's second now to Calvin Johnson, who's still got that ridiculous, crazy contract. Obviously, Jones coming off a career best season. He had 104 receptions for 1,593 yards, 6 touchdowns. So excellent news there. I have missed an abundance of injuries out in the news because there's so many people that are going for MRIs. They've got strains on this, strains on that. In all fairness, I'd be talking for about 3 hours going through the injuries. So apologies if you've not got the injury update that you wanted from me, but there's just way too many to go through, in all fairness. So that's pretty much in news. Outside, like I say, all the injuries, people coming off various lists injury-wise and stuff, there's not a lot going on. A few contracts and stuff. We still don't know anything about Brady's saggy balls, as in Deflategate. So we're still waiting for that nonsense. So we'll all know when that spews up. Just keep an eye on Twitter. Talking of Twitter, just going to check in now at Zone Coverage FS. If you want to tweet at me, feel free to do so. What do we have? What's going on so far? Yes. Martin says that hit was legal and cheap. Doesn't have to be illegal to be dirty. That is a very good point, Martin, so I appreciate that. And sign up for the fantasy football because you're clearly listening. So, yeah, again, guys, your thoughts on that? The Bradford hit, for me, I'm sort of with Martin, really. You're doing a zone read, expect your quarterback to get absolutely creamed. It's pure and simple. If you don't want him to get hurt, don't have him doing a zone read. It's simple. This is the way of the NFL. These quarterbacks are way too overprotected, way overpaid for people that are very average. I suppose that's a debate for another day, in all fairness. So yeah, Sam Bradford, yeah, it wasn't good that it was on your knees. Get over it and stop crying like a big baby, in all fairness. It's ridiculous. Also, I'm after some more info from you guys on this. The 49ers rugby dude, what's his name, Jared Hayne. Thoughts on that? I know, Martin, that's close to your heart there, being a 49ers fan. Do you think he's going to make the roster? He's not going to sneak through to the practice squad, one wouldn't imagine now. He's been one of the few highlights in this year's pre-season. Also, what's your thoughts on pre-season? There was a lot of ranting and raving after Jordy Nelson. He tore his ACL during last Sunday night's game. And people are going wild saying that the pre-season, there's no need for pre-season. They're going crazy. Why are we doing this and all that? Injuries happen all the time. Injuries happen in camp. It's part of the process. They happen in games. They happen in pre-season games. If that had been a regular season game and Jordy Nelson had the same exact injury, there wouldn't have been any uproar. It happens. It really does. I'm talking from a personal point of view. I know it's as far out of the realm of the NFL as it can be, but I did mine exactly the same. Non-contact training. It wasn't even pre-seeding, just training on a Sunday morning. Knee giveaway, game over. It happens. We've seen it. Stephen Hill for the Panthers as well. Again, his was training. Calvin Benjamin for the same sort of reason. Again, training, it just happens. We can't prevent them. Having 3 pre-season games or 2 pre-season games, you're not going to prevent injuries 100%. The game's a hell of a lot safer, concussion-wide and stuff. My argument would be about ACLs as quite possibly footwear. Before, you used to see players slipping over, so your knee wouldn't, say, stick in the ground, and then your weight shift, and then your ligament tears because you just slip and fall on your rear end. So maybe is the footwear too good? What about these pitches, these synthetic pitches now? Why not go back to grass? Stuff like that, or is training on two different or you're training on a grass surface one day, and then you go and play indoors in a dome on an artificial surface. Is that transition from one surface to another surface affecting your knees? Is there a warm-up program that you can do to prevent these sort of knee injuries that seem to dominate? There's got to be other ways around it. It's not about the fact that there's 2, 3 or 4 preseason games. I put it more down to maybe footwear, the types of pitches, and so on and so on. Stop crying about pre-season. It's never going to change. And what happens if they say ditched a couple of games and then we had 18 games? You're going to get injuries then. That's the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. It happens. Right then, that's my sort of rant out the way. Let's get to some inside Panthers camp. Again, I recorded this, I think it was Thursday now, so it was before the game on Friday night with Danny Gamlin, really nice guy. Like the most of the people that I get on the show, we end up talking for around about 40, 45 minutes. I get 20 minutes content. So again, follow him on Twitter. All the details are in the interview. I'm going to drop in the chat room, Will. So Will's still all alone, people. You're killing him. Will's a really nice guy. Come on, brother. Hook a brother up, so they say. Well, I'll join you in a minute while you lot sit back and enjoy this interview with Danny. Joining me today on the Zone Coverage Football Show is Danny Gamlin. Danny is head of the Twitter account at Car Panthers News. You can get live game day action and tweets and keep up to date with news and plenty going on there. Highly recommended follow on Twitter. Danny, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, pleasure to have you on the show. Plenty of Panthers news, shading more to the not so good side that we'll get to in a moment. But before all that, give the fans and the listeners a little insight into yourself, Danny, and at Car Panthers News Twitter handle, what actually goes on there, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, well, back in 2013, I founded Car Panthers News, and I really had the intention of creating an account on Twitter that was completely fan-oriented. What this means is that everything has a place and a purpose. I'm not going to share content if it's something that I want to be interested in myself. It's all about really helping the fans. I answer questions, everything from a player's injury status to which hotels and which restaurants to eat while you stay in Charlotte for a game. It's really all about making sure the fans are completely engaged with the team and helping them with anything that they would find enjoyable.
Ah, cool. I like that we can get some travel tips, especially for the overseas fans coming to Charlotte. That's a cool idea. It's very good.
Yeah, you usually here in Carolina, it's usually a barbecue place they go to. But Charlotte as a whole it's growing as a city, so there's plenty of places to come when fans come here for games.
Great stuff. Right, Danny, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this camp. You said that you'd attended a couple of the actual practices. So first question really is, has there been any noticeable differences to previous camps that you've attended at all?
Yeah, right now I think that, especially going back to the beginning of camp, there's really this feeling of completeness within the organization. I think the last couple of years the team felt sort of patched together, and that was really due to some cap restrictions. But even Thomas Davis said that he felt that this year's roster was actually stronger than the 2013 roster when the Panthers went 12-4. I think the fans have certainly been feeling that way as well. Camp attendance this year is at 78,000. It broke a record last year of 48,000. We had 60,000 fans show up for FanFest, which is essentially glorified practice with some fireworks. And that's more than some teams get for games. One other difference was this year we actually hosted a joint practice with the Miami Dolphins. Mostly due to logistics, it just sort of worked out. Other than, obviously, the Kelvin Benjamin injury happened during that time, even though that really wasn't due to the fact that there's a joint practice. I think that it was still a good thing. It's good for competition. So, overall, camp has really been productive this year.
Yeah, they're phenomenal numbers. Like you say, that's more than most teams get on a Sunday when there's an actual live game going on. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, the fan base is really, the past 2 years, as Charlotte's grown, the fan base has grown. the team's been doing better. It's a good time to be in the Panthers organization right now.
You touched on it just a moment ago in regards to the camp and the Calvin Benjamin injury, I should say. That is the main sort of talking point. That's what everyone's sort of like gravitating towards. I've seen a lot of stuff on the internet, maybe for clicks, I would imagine, saying that this really, really affects now the Panthers' chances of winning the South outright. People are putting you in the basement, which is just ridiculous, my end. How do you see this affecting the team? Who's going to step up in his absence?
Well, the Kelvin injury certainly does hurt a lot. I wouldn't quite put him into the category of players just can't afford to lose. That would be like the Luke Kuechly and the Cam Newton. I think what we really lose with Kelvin is Cam Newton loses the trust of the receiver. Kelvin had the most targets for a rookie in the past decade, and that just shows that there's this continuity between those two. And that's really what they're going to be missing. As far as what they do on any given Sunday, the game plan's not going to change. We're still going to be a power running team. It's going to be about running the ball first, and then throwing the ball mainly to keep the defense honest. But going forward, in terms of any additions, I think you'll see the Panthers roll with what they already have. Depth at wide receiver has been a talking point all camp long. A couple of weeks ago, Ron Rivera even said that they were thinking about keeping 6 or 7 receivers on the active roster, which would be pretty crazy. Usually teams only keep 5. But if the Panthers do bring a wide receiver from the outside, it's likely going to be off the waiver wire in the next week or so, rather than bring in a veteran wide receiver.
Keeping with the offense then, Cam Newton's got this new deal. He keeps improving, but we all know that the knock on Cam, if there is one, he can be a little erratic. He lacks that bit of touch on the ball at times. So what's impressed you most about Cam this off-season and camp?
I think it has to be Cam Newton's leadership. A large part of why we cut Steve Smith last offseason was to almost forcibly usher in this new era in Carolina where Cam Newton's going to be the face of the franchise. When you watch Cam during camp, he always has this positive temperament about him. He dances during warm-ups. He always gets his guys going. He's a player that other players can rally around. Just after the Kelvin Benjamin injury, he was talking about how he was going to take Devin Funchess under his wing. I think what this all shows is that he's making that transition from a young player to a true veteran and taking on that more mentoring role that you want to see from your franchise quarterback. As far as some of the mechanics go, I think a large part of that was on the offensive line too. It's hard to not throw off your back foot when you're getting pressured in a split in a second or two. The offensive line has been one of the best parts of the preseason so far. They've really stepped up to the plate. So I think with Cam Newton getting more time, he can start to step into his throws. He can get his mechanics down to where they need to be.
Just one last question before we move on to sort of the O-line. Cam Newton, like you said, there was a lot of fuss made about that fight that happened in camp. What's your sort of personal view on that? Was it sort of blown out of all proportions? Is it something you like to see as a fan? Or what's your sort of take on that, Danny?
Well, you would always prefer your franchise quarterback to not be getting in a fight, that's for sure. But I think it was blown out of proportion a little bit. If you ever been to Spartanburg, South Carolina during the summer, that it's really hot, and playing there, sometimes the heat can get to you. I think that's more what it was. Cam Newton and Josh Norman, who was the other player involved in the fight, they really don't have anything against each other. Really, the next day it was back to business. I think it was just in the moment, in the heat of the moment, they got into it. So really, although you don't want to see 2 star players getting into a fight, it's not that big of a deal. The team's moved on.
Yeah, I can sort of see with the point of view there. It's hot, temper's frayed. I work in a cold, dirty factory, and my temper gets the best of me at times. So I could totally understand what went on there. Getting back then to the offensive line, he said it's been looking better throughout camp. Michael O'Hare's come on over from the Titans now. How's he looked? Because he's been in the news and the headlines as well, saying he doesn't want to be remembered for the Blind Side movie. He's been trying to sort of put that sort of image to one side. So how's he settled in? How's he looked?
Michael Orr entered camp. It's one of the biggest question marks on the team. He comes in replacing Byron Bell at left tackle. Everybody knows Byron Bell had to struggle at left tackle, and the Panthers were really desperate for somebody to protect Cam on his blind side. But Michael has been one of the nice surprises so far. From the moment he signed, it was really evident that reuniting with his former offensive lineman coach while he was at Baltimore and joining an organization like the Panthers were important to him. And it's really what he saw to be successful as a true player. So far, I think you've seen that he's made the right choice of coming to Carolina. It's funny, we actually had the Tulis, I think is how you pronounce their name, from the movies. They came out to training camp one day. So that was pretty nice. But overall, I think Michael Orr is making a smooth transition. So far, so good for him.
Yeah, and I think if he can recapture that form that got him to the Super Bowl or Super Bowl ring, in fairness, I think he'll do well there. He'll fit in. He maybe just needs to, like you say, just step away from all that noise and concentrate on his game. And like I say, going forward, it could be a steal in the end.
Absolutely, yep.
And one last question in regards to the O-line. This running game now, will we finally see a cowbell back in Carolina now that D'Angelo Williams has moved on?
Unlike the C. Smith when he was cut, that really took the entire fan base by shock. I think that everybody knew that the move to cut D'Angelo Williams was coming.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the season, I started to allude to the fan base that this was a possible move. He wasn't as productive or durable as before, and most importantly, this was the first year where cutting him would make sense from a cap perspective. So everything was really in place, and when it happened, it was sort of, we know it's coming, and here it is. As far as moving forward, the Panthers still have their feature back in Jonathan Stewart. They brought in young talent at running back. Cameron Artis-Payne is a player we drafted late in this draft. He's really stepped up to the plate. So far, the running back core has been one of the shining points of the preseason. So moving forward, I think the team is they're doing well without D'Angelo Williams.
Changing gears then, let's on to this defense. We all know about how good a player Greg Hardy was and his issues and why the team moved on. But can this unit be as dominant as they have been, especially when you consider how good they were in 2013?
Well, the loss to Greg Hardy really hurts because the Panthers' defense is very much predicated on having an elite pass rush. Going back to last season, then rookie defenseman Coney Ely really stepped up to the plate in December. He showed flashes of being a possible suitable replacement for Hardy. But then this preseason and this training camp, there really hasn't been a defensive end who's truly separated themselves from the pack. And now when you have Frank Alexander being out for the year with a torn Achilles, that's going to put a lot more pressure on Coney Ely, Mario Addison, and some of the other defensive ends to step up to the plate. Right now, I would actually say that would be our biggest question mark heading into the season.
Talking of the defence, this linebacker unit, I'm a big fan. The listeners will know Luke Kuechly, big fanboy of him. Think he's one of the best players, well, probably best linebacker within the entire NFL. As one key piece of this unit, overall, is this the best linebacker unit within the NFL, or is that just a very bold statement?
I'm not going to lie and say I'm not a little biased here. But, yes, I really do believe that this is the best linebacker unit in the NFL. Carolina fans and the entire organization really see it as a tragedy that Thomas Davis often doesn't get the credit or recognition he deserves for on-the-field play. Last season, everybody thought that he was almost a shoo-in for being a Pro Bowler. Obviously, it didn't happen. But Thomas Davis is the absolute heart and soul of this team. He plays as hard and as well as anybody on any given Sunday. Going to Luke Kuechly, he's as good of a middle linebacker as you're going to get. And now you bring in first-round pick Shaq Thompson, who seems to be like a possible Thomas Davis 2.0. This is a linebacking unit that could be really special.
Yeah, just to echo what you said about Thomas Davies, we mentioned him a few weeks ago on the show, and my sort of the best way I put Thomas Davies was if you've got like young children or like you're a teenager and you need a hero, someone to aspire to, Thomas Davies, you can't go wrong. He's an inspirational character on and off the field.
Yeah, you've seen before games too. He's breaking down the players. He's getting them excited. He's really the type of person and player that you want to go into battle with. And that's really important when you talk about, it's not in the NFL, it's not just about having talent, but it's about getting everybody else, making everybody else around you better. And that's what's so special about him, is that he's not just about what he brings to the table. It's how he influences other players to step up their game. And that's part of the reason the defense has been so good in the past couple of years.
I suppose the main sort of knock on this defence, like you say, it has been a decent unit over the last couple of years, especially 2013. But question marks have been raised over the secondary. Charles Tillman isn't getting any younger. Malvin White, he lost his starting job not once but twice last year. Have we seen any signs of improvement going into the 2015 season at all?
I have, and I think that this year is the first year in a few years where the Panthers can look at their secondary and see it as no longer being a liability. Last year, Josh Warren broke out and looks to be one of the top corners in the league. Bené Benwickery and Trey Boston were both rookies last season who played well above the Call of Duty and now look to be starters in this season. Charles Tillman was really signed to be as much of a mentor and almost a coach as a player. He's been teaching, especially guys like Josh Norman. You see him on the sidelines during camp, and they're doing little, I don't know if you so call them drills, but little practices like by themselves and teaching him little nuances of the game. Charles Tillman has been teaching guys his famous peanut punch, so maybe look for some more forced fumbles out of the secondary this season.
The peanut punch, I love that. Right, the last few questions then for you, Dan. How's this year's rookie class as a whole sort of been shaping up?
Ever since general manager Dave Gettleman's come into Carolina, the bar has really been raised for what's expected out of rookies. You look at the past couple of years, and it's really just been hit after hit after hit. And most of our players who come in and contribute during the season, we get them from the draft rather than free agency. So when you look at this year's class, it really doesn't seem to be any different. Shaq Thompson is as athletic as advertised. I talked earlier about Cameron Artis-Payne, who's a terrific preseason. But the rookie I really want to focus on is right tackle Darrell Williams from Oklahoma. He's quietly been the star of the preseason. He's a guy who hasn't allowed a single quarterback pressure through the first 2 weeks, and he's been the highest graded offensive tackle by Pro Football Focus. This is a guy who could very well be working himself into the starting right tackle position. So I think that what you're seeing this year from Carolina is there's actually, there's a little bit of depth, and there's depth at the offensive line, and now you have to decide between two good players. You're looking at Mike Remmers and Darrell Williams, our right tackle, and you really can't go wrong. So it's really nice. It's a nice change here in Carolina for all that. We look at last season during the Philadelphia game, we let something like 9 sacks. I don't think that that's quite going to happen this season.
You mentioned Darrell Williams then. Who else has stood out in camp on a positive note, and also we'll play devil's advocate, and who's been a slight disappointment this year as well?
Well, for disappointments, I'd probably go with the defensive ends, mainly because no one player has truly stood out. It's a little unfair to say that just because you have the injuries to our two best defensive tackles, Charlo Tulele and Kawan Short, and then our defensive end, Charles Johnson. So instead of plugging somebody in there, they really have to fight for themselves. But in terms of a standout player, I would go with safety Kurt Coleman. He's somebody who we signed during the free agency this past offseason. He's had a terrific camp. He's known for being the first one out, first one in, last one out. He had sort of a breakout game a couple days ago against the Dolphins. And I think that he's somebody who's going to end up being the starting strong safety come week 1.
Finally, last question then for you, Danny. Could you give the listeners an under-the-radar guy to keep an eye on? I know we've got last couple of games of pre-season, but maybe going into 2015, who will be a household name by the end of the year?
Well, wide receiver Corey Brown really struggled against the Dolphins. He didn't have a single catch. However, I think that he is somebody who can step up, and he's certainly going to have the opportunity to step up this offseason, or this upcoming season. Last year, he was an undrafted free agent. He was signed primarily because of his speed. But last season, he progressed. He got better and better. He continued to climb the depth chart. And later in the season, he really became one of the prominent receivers behind Kelvin Benjamin. Now this year, you have Kelvin Benjamin's injury, and you have the fact that Corey has a year under his belt. He's going to have a fantastic opportunity to have a breakout season. He just has to be more reliable when it comes to catching the ball.
Excellent stuff. Danny, really appreciate you coming on the show. And if you guys listening, if you want your up-to-the-date Panthers news, at Car Panthers News on Twitter, and hit Danny up with any questions and anything like that. Danny, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Zone Coverage Football Show. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there we have it. Excellent insight there from Danny. The chat room, we have life in the chat room. Yes, finally. John McDonald's appeared, so has the Big Legowski. Plenty of chat going on in there. Apparently John is in a car full of coming back from a football game. He's got in there, what did he say now? Obviously he's the only Vikings fan, Packers fan, Bears fan, 49ers fan, and a New York Giants fan. So interesting chit-chat on there. They got me on in the car. So afternoon, guys. If this is the first time listening, welcome aboard. Check us out, zonecoveragefootballshow.com. I'm not shy, plug every now and again. Right then, let's get to it. Some questions have come in via Twitter at ZoneCoverageFS. One of the questions we had was, is RG3 the biggest sort of bust within the NFL over the course of the last couple of years? And sort of thinking about it, while that question come in, I won't lie, I sort of hit up Google on there. Obviously, Jamarcus Russell for the Raiders springs to mind. Blaine Gabbert for the Jags, you could argue. He's been disappointing. Speaking from a miserable Jets performance. Stephen Hill, you could argue, who's ended up on the Panthers team, done his knee and his career's probably done, second round pick. You could argue that he's a bust. Vernon Gholston's probably the biggest one I can sort of remember. David Carr, Derek Carr's brother as well for the Texans. I didn't realise that David Carr was sacked 76 times as a rookie. That is an absolutely phenomenal number. Again, sacked 76 times. That's going to put you off. So I want your thoughts on this. What's the number? 07440482266 is the number. You can text if you're a bit shy, you don't want to get on the show, and you don't have to listen to me rambling utter nonsense while trying to answer the phone. If you listened last week, you'll know that we had a few technical issues with that, but I think they're sorted now. So if you want to try that number again, 07440482266. Again, if you're outside the country or you're worried about the cost, like I say, if you've got inclusive minutes, it's going to come out of all that. You can Skype me, so that is T Smith, T-E-E-C-E, Mr. on Skype. Checking in on Twitter then, Zone Coverage FS, conversation going on between John Bradshaw, John as our Aussie listener. So John, good afternoon, sir. Appreciate you checking out the show today. Again, the talk is about Jared Hayne making the 49ers roster. Apparently it wouldn't feature that much over the course of last night's game. Everyone's pretty much on the fence with this, 50-50 that he makes the cut, whether or not. And like we said, Will echoed my sentiments earlier on, really. Will he or won't he make the roster? It's not going to clear waivers. Someone's going to swing and hit for the fences with him. So his career's not going to be over come the cut down date, which is coming up. Cut down date's very, very soon. I should have researched this a bit more. Anyway, a few more tweets we had in on Sam Bradford getting hit last week. The vast majority of sort of all on the same page, really. Bradford is a bit of a Mardor. Stop crying. You're doing a zone replay. You're going to get hit. Get over it, which is fair dues. Beyond that, we've had no sort of input on Sky taking the games on a Sunday. No more Channel 4 game. It's gone to Sky. It's not going to be blacked out, so fear not if you do have Game Pass there. So what are your thoughts on Sky? They're doing a special as well. We've got good old Jim White who did the draft coverage, and like I said, if you want an interesting read, go to Sky's sort of Twitter handle, check that out, and Jim White's just getting basically abused 10 times worse than he did when he got the draft. So I want your thoughts on that. Do you like that Sky have got it? Do you not like it? How do you feel about it? Really? Just hit me up. 07444 048 266. Chat room's gone relatively quiet as well. It's a quiet one today. Will did point out to me that it's a bank holiday weekend. Everyone's probably overindulging. It's the last time you get to do this. I offered the argument that everyone's out buying form. Just get your priorities in order. Zone Coverage Football Show, 3:30 till around about 5 every single week. Right then, let's delve into the games that went down. Oh, have I got a red alert come up on the computer? So something's clearly going on there. Ignore that if it went a bit sketchy for a moment. Just bear with me. We should be back to normal now. Right then, the games that went down. Friday night, we had the Patriots 17-16. No Gronk again for the Patriots. Brandon LaFell, no Edelman. If you look at Cam Newton's box score, he was 17 of 28, 160 yards, just the one touchdown. But in fairness, Cam was sort of haunted by drops. To my count, there was 4 or 5. Hell of a lot inflated. Should those got, he definitely would have had another touchdown, definitely. So he led them on a couple of field goal drives. Tom Brady got picked off a couple of times. Jimmy Garoppolo, he looked to struggle as well. That O-line for the Patriots doesn't look exciting in all fairness. But again, it's hard, isn't it? The playbooks are very, very vanilla at the moment. The Patriots are still probably going to come out and win the division 12-4, much to my despair, for about what must be the 12th, 13th season on the bounce. Next up, we had the who else played? The Titans and the Chiefs. Chiefs fans, you can rejoice. Caught a touchdown pass. Just let that soak in, man. Yes, you did. You caught in a touchdown pass. I do believe it was Mackley. Alex Smith looked very, very good in all fairness. He was 16 of 18, 171 yards, couple of touchdowns. The Chiefs just smoked the Titans first half in all fairness. It was absolutely brutal. Marcus Mariota, he struggled first couple of snaps. Found his feet though, so I'm liking that Mariota seems to be able to overcome adversity. I know it's early on. You remember that first game the other week, he threw an interception, fumbled, bounced back, looked really, really good. This happened again this week. First 3 dropbacks didn't look overly convincing. Found his feet. He then went 7 of 8 for 99 yards. Of Jamal Charles, Jeremy Macklin, I've mentioned, they played in this game. 17, and this one, Matthew Stafford, he was 11 of 15, 173 yards, couple of touchdowns there. Blake Bortles, his continued improvement showed no signs of letting up as he went 20 for 29, 245 yards, a touchdown, and he also had 38 yards rushing. So Jags fans, very, very interesting. Talking of Jags fans, Tom from Huddle Magazine could be calling the show in about the next 5-10 minutes. So hopefully we'll hear from Tom and he'll give us some insight as to what's happening at Huddle Magazine. I'm just going to drop back into the chat room. I did mention about the Sky games. John's getting absolutely abused in the car journey, so that seems to be good fun. Having all the games is really silly. Going to miss Iron Mike. Don't mind he's got a Game Pass, but love the Channel 4 coverage. Yeah, that seems to be the sort of main sort of thing. Which was a bit more sort of laid back. Iron Mike, Nat Coombs, and it's just sort of like a fun, sort of friendly atmosphere there. So it's something I'll miss personally as well. It was, like I say, good friendly atmosphere. It was fun, and the guys actually knew what they wanted, what they were on about. Neil Reynolds, I can't really knock him too much, but he's not the most popular figure, is he? I don't think the fans seem to gravitate towards him like they did with Iron Mike and Nat Coombs. You can tweet me at Zone Coverage DFS. Let's roll off the rest of these games then. You actually got a couple of games tonight that are going to be on Game Pass, people, so we do have some live picks again. 9 o'clock tonight, we do have the Texans at the Saints, and then 1 a.m. if, like me, you stay up till the stupid hours on a Sunday night, we have the Cardinals at Raiders, and that is one I'm going to watch. I've not had a chance yet to check out the Raiders. I really need to see... Oh, my mind's gone blank. Amari Cooper. Yes, I want to see this Carr-Cooper connection. I want to see the chemistry there. I mentioned it last week. If you've not seen any vines on the internet of Amari Cooper just absolutely abusing DBs, it's so quick off that line. It's phenomenal. Go check it out. So there are 2 games tonight. Texans Saints 9 p.m. Cardinals Raiders. Back to the games that happened yesterday. Pittsburgh Steelers, they lost 43-19. The Bills. I should have asked this question, really. Regarding the Buffalo Bills, what are we doing? We had Matt Castle started the first game. Tyrod Taylor started the second game. And you're all seeing E.J. Manuel come in like the third quarter. He's getting garbage down touchdowns. He's thinking he's throwing Super Bowl winning passes against the third string players. And then he starts yesterday. And in all fairness, in EJ's defence, he had a decent game, 7 of 8, 170 yards, a couple of touchdowns. But what are the Bills playing at here? It's frightening. I don't get what the Bills are doing. Rex Ryan, from my experience as a Jets fan, he never really handled the quarterback situation in the greatest way at all. So now he's had 1 starter, 2 starters, 3 starters, and what are you doing? You're confusing the situation. He doesn't know what he's got. How's he going to go with like the hot hand here? He hasn't got a hot hand because they've all started, they've all done okay, and it's just really, really confusing. I really don't know what you do. Bills fans, they've sold out a record high of something like 60,000 season tickets. That's like the highest ever with all this hype trade and Rex Ryan and everything. And yes, the Bills have, probably on paper, you could argue, one of the best teams, best rosters within the entire NFL. A couple of questions along the O-line, granted, but beyond that, the defence is phenomenal. Receiver-wise, they're in good shape. Clay at tight end, Sammy Watkins, and so on and so on. But what is happening here, Rex? You're not helping yourself. Bills fans, if any Bills fans are listening, I want your take on this. It's an absolute mess. Mentioned EJ anyway. Tyrod Taylor, he come in. He went 12 of 13, 122 yards, 20-yard rushing touchdown. Matt Castle then was 6 of 7 for 38 yards. It's just bang your head against the wall for the Bills. Michael Vick, he played much to the despise of the majority of Steelers fans. He was 4 of 5, 16 yards as well. Next up then, the Browns beat the Bucks 31-7. We had, I haven't even caught up on my Jets yet. This is shambolic my end with Stag Do last night. Bowling, I won both games, not I'm going to brag. Bit too late for that, but yeah, bowling, and then out round town it was carnage. So I missed my Jets. I was tucked up in bed, slept late. It's been a disaster of a Sunday, in all fairness. You could probably tell from the lack of preparation that's gone here. I can't even give you any stats because I haven't even had a chance to research it, but you're going to have to let me off for this week. The Falcons, they lost to the Dolphins 13-9. We had the Vikings, they beat the Cowboys 28-14. The Bears lost to the Bengals, that was 21-10. Redskins 31-13 over the Ravens. We had the Colts, they knocked off the Rams. And St. Louis 24-14. The Seahawks beat the Chargers in San Diego 16-15. The Philadelphia Eagles, they've put up some impressive numbers over the course of this offseason. I don't think they've scored below 30-odd points. But I don't think they've gone below 34 points, if memory serves me correct. They beat the Packers 39-26, and the 49ers lost 19-12 to the Broncos. Again, with preseason, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, as I mentioned. It's a very, very vanilla playbook, and so on. Just the injuries at the moment, they are stockpiling. Just going to check back in then on the chat room. Will's mentioned that Sky having the monopoly will reduce the reach of the sport, specifically the highlights show with Vernon. Not sure what they're trying to grow, but they're sort of monopolising everything. It's an absolute pain in the rear end. Just hope that BT don't get on board like they have done with the football, and then you've got to pay an astronomical amount of football money to watch the Premier League. sorry to just divulge away, but this is the only example I've got. You've got pay for Sky and then pay for BT so you can watch sodding football games at the weekend. Let's hope we never have to go down that route with the NFL. Although that being said, the BT do have the college games if you're into college football. So I would imagine if you're a massive pigskin freak, you're watching the college on the Saturday on BT, you've got Sky at the weekend, and then you've got Game Pass. How expensive is the NFL actually becoming? And then you go and visit the NFL shop. It's 90 quid for a personalised jersey, and there's only 4 in stock. We're getting shafted. We are. The more and more you think about it, the more and more we are getting shafted. We've actually just had a comment on the Facebook page, so I'm just going to check that out. Again, if you want to check us out on Facebook, you can. Feel free to do so. It's www.facebook.com/zonecoveragefootballshow.com. Let's see, it's Martin. Martin answers the question in regards to RG3 being the biggest draft bust in recent memory, and he says no. Just looking at a draft position, you can't say that. Plenty of second picks given less than him in his career. The offensive tackles taken a couple of years ago, but they haven't paid off. So that's a fair point. Yeah, it was that really, really bad draft once. Was it Joe Cole and the other guard for tops off with saying at least they got one season of productivity out of RG3. Yeah, I suppose they did. That's the sort of the only way you can look at it. But what a season that was, and that sets the bar high. And when you come back and perform the way RG3, I don't think it's mainly the performances with RG3. Really, it's more like an attitude, how he sort of comes across when he did do his leg, and he was coming back with his t-shirts, and from what you hear the rumblings of in the locker room, he doesn't seem to be very well liked, very well respected. He's sort of, I think he's allowed sort of access to bring his family behind the scenes and all sorts. It's a really, really odd setup there. I just think the 49ers, the Redskins they've got it a mess at the moment. It is a mess. So we shall see. Again, folks, I haven't got a great deal to go on about. I'm going to try and rattle on for the next 4 or 5 minutes. So the phone lines are open, so if we get a couple of calls, we will keep going. So I'm not sure if Tom's back yet via Huddle Magazine. So Tom, you've got a few minutes, buddy. I'm going to wrap this one up early this week. Next week we're going to delve back into this. We're going to try and get Dennis on. I do believe that Dennis is off on his fantastic journey. If you don't know who Dennis is, he's going to be doing all 31 NFL stadiums over the course of this upcoming season. So we're going to get Dennis on. We're going to try and see. I do believe he's got his route down now, so we're going to see how much stuff he's got packed, and we're going to try and check in with Dennis as he goes on this fantastic journey across the states to all these games. So we've got that coming up. Again, I'm going to put a call out, fantasy football, Martin and the gang, accept that. If 2 more people want to jump on board fantasy football, I'm willing to take the draft to the 16 teams. Got a bit of an issue with time-wise. People want to do it Friday, want to do it Sunday. We're probably going to have to keep it Sunday, but maybe change the time a little earlier, a little later. I'll drop in, send everyone an email that's in there regarding that, folks. So I'm going to try and figure that out. So 2 potential spots left, and then as we move on into the season, we're going to get your favourites back. We're going to be doing the hot route again, where you'll be able to vote on play of the week. We're going to, obviously the news is still going to be here. The fan versus fan, if you want to register for fan versus fan, and if you've not listened to the fan versus fan, John McDonald's got a car full of fans here, so we can get them on. John, get your muckers down for fan versus fan. You get about 60 to 90 seconds each. Come on the show via Skype. I'll get you on. The floor's then yours. You tell us why your team's going to win on this particular day. We put it to the listeners. Whoever they feel put the best case forward wins. I'm not going to drop by a house in a brand new convertible, nothing like that. There's no prizes in it. It's just bragging rights. It's like a weird popularity contest. That's the only way I can describe the fan versus fan feature. But it goes down really well because everyone likes listening to other fans and the insight and stuff. We're going to bring back the love line as well. Again, if you're a new listener, this is not really. It's not really a dating service. It is not a dating service. This is the guys on the line. We mentioned week after week these quarterbacks, these defensive ends, these corners, the glamour boys of the NFL. Without the big lads on the line, there'd be nobodies. So I like to pay tribute, give these lads a bit of love, hence the feature love line. We're going to get into some game previews as well. We've got the gang from Fourth Down and Out. They're going to be providing everyone with some fantasy news, up to the date minute fantasy news going into that Sunday as well. So those guys are back, so looking forward to that. Also, go check out the Fourth Down and Out podcast. That'd be very much appreciated. Tom's going to be back as well with the very, very last minute news, just as the show sort of draws to a close, with his last minute news from Huddle Magazine. I've got 2 other features in the pipeline. I'm trying to sort of record the wife ranting and raving about stuff. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't really want to sort of feed her lines and make her angry, because I want to sort of take on my obsession with the NFL, and I've sort of come up with an idea, and it's going to be called The Secret Life of Pigskin Wife. She will never ever know. She doesn't even listen back to the podcast, so I'm going to go full on balls to the wall, see if I can sort of feed her a line, provoke her, and try and record that rant, and then I'll play it back to you, and then it'll be between me and you. Oh, it's jumped to the phone. Hello?
Hello, mate. This is Mike, Bengals fan.
Oh, how are you, mate? You all right?
Oh, right. How's it going?
I'm very well, sir. Appreciate the call. What can I do for you?
Yeah, no problem. Just wanted to quickly talk about the Bengals pre-season. How'd it go? Well, more to the point, last night's game against the Bears.
All right, cool. I completely missed the game last night. I was out on a stag do, so please fill me in.
Well, I think just to sort of summarise, the Bengals ended up winning by quite a neat margin. It was a good response in comparison to last weekend's pitiful display against the Bucs. But I think what's happening at the moment in Cincy is the old conversation about Andy Dalton. And last night, Dalton put together quite a neat and opening drive, and we got the touchdown. It was actually a QB sneak on a 4th and 1 at the goal line. But the actual performance of the backup, the longer-weighted performance of AJ McCarron, he was connecting really, really well with Marvin Jones, who's been out for a while with injuries, and Tyler Eifert as well, who, as we know, again, has been out of injuries. So I think it's something which, as the season goes on, and depending how the Bengals get on, it's something worth maybe to keep an eye on in Cincinnati, the QB situation. Just to add to the caveat, part of one of Dalton's stipulations in his contract, which was signed near enough 2 years ago, is the Bengals can cut him at the end of this season, and they won't take a cap hit. Yeah. So, you put 2 and 2 together. If the Bengals, get the playoffs and get to, fall up the first hurdle yet again, questions aren't going to be raised about what is Dalton's future. And, McCarron sitting in the wings, he's won 2 national championships in, admittedly a very good Alabama team, but he wins. The guy, the guy wins. I'm not putting down a mark to say who I should think we should go with. I personally think that Dalton's sealed as a starting role. It'll take an ACL injury, as you were going on about earlier on, to probably take Dalton out of that the number 1 spot. But I think it's something worth bearing in mind. So you say you didn't catch any of the Bears game last night. Well, I think if you're a Bears fan, I think you're in for a long, hard season. Not so much on the offense. I think the offense itself is going to quite humble on quite nicely, but I think on defense is going to be where it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, I say the Bears are changing to a 3-4, aren't they, as well? We've got Jared Allen who's going to be dropping back in coverage, and that's going to be a struggle. Moving back towards your Bengals then, how would sort of... I'm trying to think of a way to dress this up. Well, how big of a leash then has Andy Dalton got? Because let's say, we'll play devil's advocate. First off, let's say he makes the playoffs again and they fall at the first hurdle. Yeah. Then do you chop him, or do the Bengals really need to go? Let's say they started off 2 and 5, and then would you think fans would be clamouring for McCarron?
I think, well, when you say the fans are clamouring for McLaren, there is an army of Bengals fans out there who are already clamouring for McCarron, but I think that's more due down to the lack of success. I mean, this team hasn't won a playoff game since 1990. Yeah. So you can understand that patience is wearing thin. Hypothetically, given the scenario you've chosen, I think also whether Dalton stays or goes depends on the coaching situation. I know Marvin has been quoted in the past saying that if he did win Super Bowl with this team, he would walk away.
Yeah.
Whether he would walk away after another failure, you got to. I think the questions have to be raised. Mike Brown is a fiercely loyal owner, but Mike Brown doesn't really call the shots anymore. It's his daughter, Katie Blackburn, that does that. I think also you got to bear in mind Hugh Jackson. He's been an NFL coach before. He did a fairly decent job with the Raiders. Remember the year they went 8-8. I think he will be looking at possibly a head coaching opportunity elsewhere. Again, we've also got Vance Joseph, who's the D-backs coach. He was being linked with being the DC coordinator for the Broncos for this season. The Bengals managed to turn the Broncos down, and Vance has stayed. He could be on the loose. So I don't think it's just a Bengals fans need to realise it's not just Dalton who could be changing. It could be an overall coach change, and I think with change of that level, I think it is a case of the Bengals now. It really is. It's win or bust. But do you trade off? Do you try and shake the whole thing up, and then you take the risk of the whole thing imploding, or do you stick with consistency? It wasn't that long ago the Bengals were quite frankly the laughing stock of the NFL.
Yeah.
We don't want to go back to that. And with Baltimore and Pittsburgh in our division, that the standards are set so high. Yeah. You want to become a Browns. That's simply it. We don't want to become a Browns ever again.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone. You're sort of stuck in this sort of weird sort of limbo, aren't you? Because, like you say, it was absolutely miserable. You were stinking up the place, and now you're getting to the playoffs, but falling at the first hurdle, which is a far cry from what you say. So, it's awkward because you have to be careful what you wish for. And as they say, finding a franchise quarterback is not the easiest thing in the world. While Andy Dalton might not be in the top echelon of these quarterbacks, he's steady, but frustrating, I suppose, is the word. When he gets to the big games, the spotlight seems too much.
Yeah, he's nothing spectacular, Bandy, but when it's going back to your earlier point, how much of a leash he's on, I think this season Jackson has quoted in the media that he is allowing Dalton to orchestrate the offense on a greater occasion now. I think last night's game against the Bears, it did show that he can be a very good read option QB. Now, I think against the Bears secondary, that's an appropriate method of offense. The Bears' defense isn't the greatest. However, when you come up against a Pittsburgh or a Baltimore and even the Browns, they'll suss out the read option within the first quarter. You can't do that. You have to beat them, either on ground and pound through Jeremy Hill, or you go to the air, and that's when Dalton starts to then come into question, because it's a case of trying to protect him. The O-line we've got at the moment is pretty decent. There's no excuse really for Dalton. He's worked with this offensive line for years. There's no real excuse for him to fail. But given that, last night Jake Fisher didn't have the greatest game. I know PFF. Sorry to give another shout out to another site here, but at worst they were grading him. They were grading him a -9, which is a figure of disaster. And also our first round pick, Cedric Ogbuehi, isn't going to play this season. He's on the PUP list, but the likelihood of him playing isn't the greatest. Whitworth's still there, which is always a bonus. Smith's still there, and the guards themselves, Bowling and Zeitler, they're going to be fine. We're a bit concerned at the centre with Bodine. He isn't exactly, he's a rookie season last season, but he has been sort of somewhat found wanting, especially against the Bucks in the first game, in the previous game against McCoy. So give Dalton his dues. I think he can orchestrate an offense. He was certainly no slouch at TCU, all those years ago. It's his fifth season. He's owed nothing but winning records in Cincinnati. So I think it's about time. Yeah, let's give him the reins of the offense. I'm sure you'll be able. The intelligence is there, but whether physically the tools are there. I mean, the will's there. That's no question. I think the locker room does respect him, but sometimes it doesn't actually come down to the physical nature of the player. And I think he could, that's when he can be found wanting. So it's going to be interesting in Cincy. But on perspective, the way I look at it is, mate, there's 32 teams out there. There's about 10 teams with a settled QB, and I include the Bengals in that. I'd much rather be in our position than, say, the other 22 anyway.
You wouldn't want to be my Jets, trust me.
my condolences. My condolences.
Appreciate that. Just want to touch on something you mentioned there. You mentioned your backfield. Yeah. I posed this question on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bernard and Hill. Is that the best running back duo in this league, or have the Packers got a good shout with Lacey and Stark?
Whether it's
because
I don't know.
You've got to look for me. Gio's dynamic, isn't he? Hill's your downhill rusher. He's going to run for the tackle. He's going to beat you down.
Yeah.
Gio Bernard just adds that extra element.
Yeah. Well, I'd also throw into that Rex Burkhead as well. You say you didn't see it. You didn't see his play, but Burkhead running out the backfield. He was a running back that acting like a tight end, or even like tight end straight wide receiver combo. And we've got Hewitt as well. He was a fullback again, tight end wide receiver combo. I would say the Bengals have got the most dynamic backfield in the NFL. Whether it's the best, I don't know. I'm not so sure. I'm sure the Eagles might even have something to say about that. DeMarco Murray.
That's a good point.
And whatever Chip Kelly also comes up with in his offense. I think there's a few other teams as well which might have arguments to make on the old backfield. But regardless of that, I think ultimately it's a QB league, and I think I think if you look in the combinations, you look at someone like the Steelers who have got Bell and Roethlisberger. I'm afraid that's always going to beat whatever Dalton and plus whatever is going to on most days will beat whatever's behind Dalton. Unfortunately, because Roethlisberger, as much as I hate him, being a large rival QB, he is a great player, and look how important Bell is. He can do everything. He can do everything for the Steelers. We're not that far away.
No,
I certainly think we're not that far away. I just think I mean, hypothetically speaking, if you took Dalton out and you put in, say someone like Andrew Luck in that team, all of a sudden it's like, it's how many points can we score today, son? when you look at it that way. So, yeah, I think backfield-wise, I think we're going to be fine. Let's hope that he does have a little bit of a habit to fumble. We can't deny that. Bernard isn't your bell cow back. He is certainly your dynamic set your screens. Catching up the backfield guy. He reminds me a lot of Darren Sproles, really, Bernard. But I think he can certainly, be a bit more involved in the game than Sproles ever has been. So I think Burkhead and Hewitt calling out as pass catching options as well. I think you're going to see some surprises from the Bengals backfield.
One last sort of thing I want to touch on. Geno Atkins obviously has been injured last couple of years. He's struggled a bit. I've read reports and I caught the first game, and he looks to be back to his best.
Yeah.
How big a deal is that going to be for the team?
Oh, that's a massive boost. It's an absolute huge beast. You look at the Bengals stats last season. I think there was actually, JJ Watt actually accrued more sacks himself than the entire Bengals D-line did last season. It's a huge deal him coming back and being at his best. But I think he's going to. Him coming back, he just gives the place this massive boost as well. He's also. I think he's actually down as one of the team captains this season. I mean, telling me why the Bengals didn't draft again on DT, so I think it tells you something about the defense. They've got faith in the line. We got Michael Johnson back as well.
Yes.
That's a massive boost. And Dunlap looks as better than he ever has been. So yeah, I think Atkins, Johnson, Dunlap, those three, those three critical players. I think we're going to be absolutely fine.
Brilliant. Anything else then for today?
No, mate. I'm going to have to leave you there. But yeah, awesome. Don't worry. Pre-season, only 1 more week to go, and we got to real football.
Yeah, so we get the actual
Can't wait.
back. Yeah, I appreciate the call.
Right,
and don't be a stranger.
Just one last thing, mate. Just a little shout out. If you're any Bengals fans out there listening, follow us at Uday_UK. That's for the and find the Bengals fan page at Bengals UK on Facebook.
Awesome. While you're on then, fan versus fan, can we jot you down for fan versus fan throughout the season?
Of course. Hell yeah.
Awesome. All right then. That's plugging at both ends.
All right, mate. Good day.
Appreciate the call. Take care.
No worries, mate. Okay, bye.
Awesome chat there. So we finally got a phone call through. So this week, the fat fingers actually worked for once. Tom from Huddle Magazine, he's been trying to Skype in whilst I was taking that call. He's on a train, so he did Skype. He said he's going to be busy, so we're probably going to postpone that till next week. If I'm honest, Tom, it's probably going to be the best thing to do. What are we now? 20-5. I'm going to look to wrap this bad boy up, if I'm honest. If you want, again, any points that you want to touch on with me today regarding the quarterback situation, Buffalo Bills fans, I've sort of called to arms for Buffalo Bills fans. I want your insight on what the hell's going on there. What are your thoughts? Also, again, Brian Hoyer, is he the right guy? A lot of chat about the rugby dude over at the 49ers. Also, Sky in these Sunday games, keep those thoughts coming in. The pre-season, we only got one more week to go. Who's going to make your roster? Who's not going to make your roster? Also, any under-the-radar guys? I know we've been asking a lot of questions in regards to that. Also, if you want to sort of schedule a call, if you know you're actually going to be around at some time and you want to phone in, you're unsure, well, the lines aren't overly busy, to be honest, but if you want to hit me up in advance and arrange something, just feel free to do so. You can email me, zonecoveragefootballshow@mail.com. If you want to send a longer sort of thing, Twitter, ZoneCoverageFS. Again, numbers 07440482266. Skype is Tees Missed. Also, as well, if something sort of really annoys you and you can't get to the phone line or something like that and you can't wait till Sunday to ring in, if you visit the website zonecoveragefootballshow.com, you'll see on the right hand side of the screen as you look at it, you'll see it leave the show a voicemail thing. We've only had one so far from Martin, so if something goes down tonight or in the week, there's a bad injury, something like last week with the Packers and everyone was sort of moaning about the pre-season games, if you've got a rant and you just can't hold it in, rather than take to Twitter, hit up the website zonecoveragefootballshow.com. If you've got 3 minutes, record whatever you want on there. You don't have to keep it clean. I'll give you freedom to say what you want, but I'll have to beep them out when I play it back. So don't worry about polite ranting. Just rant away. I'll bleep them out, and we'll play them on the show. Include your Twitter handle as well, and we'll get you on the show. So if you want to do that, do feel free to do so. Again, there's a lot of chat going on in the chat room. It was slow getting going today, but whenever the show's done and dusted, if you head on over to Spreaker.com, you can go through the comments there and you can comment after the show's finished. So if you agree or disagree with any of the points that the guys have made now, or you think something that said was funny, feel free to hit that up. That'd be good. Beyond that, I am pretty much done and dusted. Again, if you're going over to iTunes, Stitcher, appreciate any sort of like rankings, ratings and everything. I can just see something flashing up. I've actually got a few interactions on Twitter, so I'm just going to check those out on Twitter before we go. Also the Facebook page, again, pretty much we got Google Plus, anything like that. I'm just panning yes while this loads up. So what do we have on Twitter? At the one time I need Twitter, it is failing on me. It's just plenty going on in regard to Jared Hayne there. If he's going to make the team with special teams and not so much as a running back, seems to be sort of general consensus there. So again, once I'm done with the show, you can still tweet at me. It's very much appreciated. Check in on them. We had a comment on the Facebook page. Someone's ringing my doorbell like crazy. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm going to have to go sort that out. Right. The Facebook question was... I'm going to have to go in a minute, folks. Someone is banging at my door for some bizarre reason. So I will sort that out in a moment. I'm going to have to hustle here and quit, folks. Something has come up my end. So I will catch you next week and we will sort this out. I have no idea what's going on. Someone's clearly very angry. So remember, hustle here, never quit.
Today's show was brought to you by ZoneCoverageFootballShow.com, where opinions, passion, and pride are always on the line. Missing the live shows? Then be sure to subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. And thanks for checking out this edition of the Zone Coverage Football Show.